What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Health and Wellness Summit. You should know by now, my name is Courtney Miracle. I screw my name up most days, but that is indeed my name. I am your host, and I have my really good friend, Sally Meyers, here with us today. Sally, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Lots of interviews, and we were just talking about the fact that I don't seem to know my names. If you guys have been watching these, it gets funnier as we go. Oh, I'm good. Well, Sally, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and who you help.
Okay. So I am a life coach. I was a personal trainer for many, many years, which I think is one of the things that connects you and I because we've been in the fitness realm for a long, long time. And I started noticing that my clients just, for some reason, would sabotage themselves or not be able to get the goals that they wanted to get. And so I kind of went and searched for what the missing piece was and found a program called Hungry for Happiness, which Courtney helped me get into. And basically, it all comes down to our emotions, our beliefs, and how we feel about ourselves. So I did a deep dive into that, did a certification course, and now I'm coaching. And I help professional women who are worried about all the things they can't control. Take some time to themselves to just get quiet and get present and figure out that control is an illusion anyway, and we can just relax and have a little bit more fun with life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So obviously you're dealing with professional women. They have a lot on their plate. Like, what are their biggest struggles or frustrations, or what are they trying really hard to control?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that everyone says almost across the board is my to-do list is so long and I don't have enough time to get everything done. So that's a big one. Also, the age group of women that I typically work with are, they have kids either going off to college or finishing college. So they're worried about the kids' big transition, right? Like moving out of the house or getting done with college and getting a job. And then they're also worried about their health and their family's health. So those are the big things that that they're worried about. And also, did I do enough when my kids were little? Was I a good enough mom? Did I work too much and not give enough time to the kids? So all of those things that we have really no control over. That people are worried about and they focus on because they're trying really hard not to focus on what's really going on inside.
Right. Okay. So when they come to you, how do you help them? What's your starting point with getting them to probably first understand that control's an illusion? So you talk on that a little bit. I know that was a big thing for you and I as well. I was like, no, I control all the things.
Right.
And that was like the biggest shift in my life. So how do you walk them through allowing that to shift?
Yeah. So, the control is an illusion thing is a big shift for people. And what I typically start with is just getting aware of the thoughts going on in your head, right? Like, what are those thoughts that plague you like 20,000 times a day? Like, I have to do all the things on my to-do list, or my kids are surely going to get COVID and, have to come home and all the things. So I think that just being aware first of the thoughts that are constantly going through your head and maybe pull the patterns. Like, if I'm getting really stressed out about work, do I automatically fixate on the kids, my weight, my health, my, what am I fixating on instead of dealing with XYZ? So I think awareness is the first big step. Just getting quiet, getting out of your chatterbox head and being aware of the thoughts that are going on.
Yeah, I think that's huge because I think avoidance is something, it's not maybe avoidance, but just a redirection, right? And that was my story forever, was like, if I was stressed about money or a business or any of like all the things in my life, if I look back, when I was stressed on those things, I was like, I should restrict my food, right? I should go straight into this eating disorder because I know how to stress about this.
Right.
I know how to stress about the fact that our building got sold and I don't know if our business is going to survive, but I can truly count my calories, right? And it's something that we do subconsciously. And so I love that you help them bring awareness, right? Because with awareness, then they start to have some peace, right? So once they have awareness and they start to maybe believe you that control is an illusion, maybe it
Mhm.
takes a
Mhm.
while. What's the next piece? Like, how do you kind of walk us through their progression and what that looks like to move through those things?
Yeah. So once we spend a couple weeks on just being aware and being present, more present with ourselves, then we can start moving into the little action items like, and I know that you and I are similar in this. We believe in baby steps that are sustainable and buildable. I'm not going to have you do 5 hours of homework a night, but I think that uh, little bitty action steps like I want you to get up 15 minutes earlier in the morning and just have some quiet time where nobody else is up and you can just read something uplifting or do a little meditating or just shut that brain off for a minute and find out what's going on in
So do you find a lot of resistance to that, or does that feel pretty good for most of your clients?
here. I feel like if I started off with that, I would get a lot of resistance. I think the first step is just giving them permission to be quiet for little bits during the day and figure out what's going on. And then they can move on to bigger, like more life shifting routines and habits.
Love that. And I think that's a huge point is permission is such a big piece of it, right? Like we all create these rules that like I have to do XYZ and I have to get up and
Right.
do, like all of the things. And you're like, oh, I just needed Sally to tell me it's okay for me to slow down.
Right.
Thank God. Like, okay, I
Right.
can just be, right? And I think that's when we're in that go and that hustle and that take care of everything, do all the things, it's like you feel guilty sitting down for 5 minutes
Right.
or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, right? And so I love permission, I love awareness, I love permission, and I love the baby steps. So
Yeah.
as they start to walk through this, what's your next piece of advice? Okay, we have awareness, we have permission, we're
Mhm.
doing some things, then what starts to happen so they can make those bigger shifts?
Well, once we get to that point, that's when the fun starts happening. Like we really get into like, what do you like to do that you have put off doing for the last 20 years because you've been so focused on that to-do list? What are things that you like to do? What are things that bring you joy? Are they the same things they were 20 years ago? Or have you shifted into something else? And just adding those little bits of joy into their lives so that they can figure out, am I living as joyfully as I can, or do I need some things to shift so that I can?
Yeah. For the people listening, I know you and I've talked a lot about what you do and how you coach. A lot of people, when you ask them that question, they're like, I don't know what, like, I
Right.
don't know what brings me joy. So for people watching this, can you give them some advice if they're like, oh shit, I don't want to admit that I don't know what brings me joy. And I don't know what
Right.
makes me happy. Can you give them some advice and some tips on how to start to peel back those layers and really learn that about themselves?
Yeah, I think the first thing that most people say when I ask them that is like, I like to spend time with my family on a picnic, or I like to go with the kids, blah, blah, blah. And so my advice to you would be go somewhere by yourself. Where would you like to go by yourself? What would you like to do if you had nobody else with you?
Yeah.
And maybe write a list and stick it on the refrigerator. And as you start to think of things, oh, yeah, you know what? I used to like to go for a drive and sing in the car. Write it down. I used to like to have a candle lit all the time, and then the kids were little and I never lit a candle because I was afraid they'd knock it over. Write it down. Think of your five senses. What do you like to see? What do you like to hear? What do you like to taste? What do you like to touch? What do you like to smell? And go from there and just keep a running list and try to do one every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a trip to Hawaii. It can be like light a candle.
Although a trip to Hawaii would be nice, right? That's the
Yeah.
next step. But, and I love it's probably interesting too, because as go-getters and doers and moms, it's like we don't want to give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves. But what do you see change in their life? You and I know self-care is super important. And we also had to walk through that journey of it's okay to just be for ourselves. What things really start to change and how they show up, and then what are they like, what's the aftermath of how they show up and how does that affect their life?
Yeah. So when you kind of lose your identity really
Yeah.
because you're so focused on the kids, the job, the family, the house. When you start to lose your identity, you forget what you find fun, you forget what you like to do, you forget what your dreams were. And so I think that when you can start to rediscover those things, you start to live more confidently because you're truly embodying who you are to the core instead of, shoving that down and taking care of the kids first or whatever it is. You show up more confidently at work. You show up more confidently in your relationship. You show up more confidently by yourself. I find a lot of women don't like to spend time by themselves.
Yeah.
Why is that?
You might hear our thoughts.
Yeah, right.
Right. Like that was my old story. I was like, I don't want to hear what's going on in here. So if I'm never alone, I can avoid
Yes.
it, right? Like, yeah.
So like the most comfortable you should ever be is with yourself.
Yeah.
So it's about rediscovering that, because you're the only person who's going to be around for the long haul. Like you have no guarantees of anyone else, but this guy is always going to be there. So you better damn well get comfortable with this guy.
Yeah. And I know that we've talked about it, like when your clients step into this, they see it in so many aspects, right? Their marriage gets better, they become better moms, and they feel less pulled, right? Like they feel less pulled by the to-do list because they're actually present. And I work with my clients on this too. And we do a lot of similar stuff of like, if you're present just right now, just doing your workout or just writing this email or just being, that pull and that chaos starts to go away, right? And when that goes away, you get happier, you have more joy. I mean, the name of Sally's coaching you guys is Happy Ripples Coaching, and I just love that. But those start to happen. But in the tangible world too, I know that your clients start to be more fulfilled, they have more impact, but they also have more income, because when you're confident, you make more money, right? And so it's like, the world is not about just making more money, but for most of us, that doesn't hurt, right? That helps that trip away after you flip the candle for
Right.
So when this happens for them, do you see other tangible outcomes, right? Like explain what somebody feels and looks like when they start coaching with you, and then a lot of the shifts that happen while they're coaching with you and when they're done.
Yeah. So I feel like, in that whole place where you're not really sure of yourself, you're not really sure what you like, you're just kind of going through the motions, you have trouble making decisions. Like, where do you want to go out to eat? I don't know. Why don't you pick? Right. So one of the biggest shifts I see is as they start to rediscover themselves and get a little bit more confident, they can make decisions. They can make decisions faster. They can decide, and they have more confidence in the outcome of their decision, right? Like I've worked with women who are miserable in their jobs, but there's no way they can leave because money, kids, blah, 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 I'm the breadwinner or whatever. To, you know what? I hate this job. I've always hated this job, and I'm going to look for a new job because I just decided by myself, without consulting 20 other people, that I'm going to look for a new job, or I'm going to ask for a raise because you know what? I haven't had one in 5 years and I was afraid to say anything, but now I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
So it's those little things like feeling better about their parenting. Like I spend time with my kids and I feel like I'm really present because I'm not worried about my to-do list because I've already been there, done that. And now this part of the day is dedicated to this. And that brings a lot of not only joy because they're spending more time with their kids, but just peace because they're not having that tug of war in their brain of work and kids.
Yeah. Oh, tug of war. That's such a good
eggs in this basket for this hour,
Yes. Yeah. Tug of war is such a good, I haven't heard you say that before. And that's such a good visual of like, oh, I'm here, but I need to be here. And like when the peace comes, because you're like, oh, I get to be here. And yes, you become a better parent because your kids feel that. Right. And like you said about the decision making, I think that's so important because for most of these women, they're probably actually connecting back into their intuition. Like I've known for a long time that they needed a raise, or they hated the job, or they did their brain was like, no, we got to do this, right? So we're connecting them back into loving themselves, which gives them the ability to actually listen to their intuition and go, okay, brain, you're good, or all the 15 other people that told me what I should do. And there's a piece too that comes with trusting yourself, right? And it's that cycle, right? Confidence and trust, and all of the things just expand. So yeah, I love that. I love that. So for what you do, how do people work with you? What do you offer? How do they find you?
Yeah, so offer a 6-month group coaching program. I cap it at 10 women, and we have weekly calls, group calls every week, and we have a dedicated Facebook group so people can kind of talk about what homework we do and talk about their journaling and everything in the group. So they have kind of that support system. And then every 5th week, we have a integration week where we just kind of talk about what's working, what's not working, what we're struggling with, and all the things. And then the women have access to me during business hours, Monday through Friday, if they have questions or something comes up. And then I am rolling out in May a membership program where there will be meditations and journaling prompts, and then a monthly workshop. So that's coming down the pike.
I love that. I love it. And I love that you do groups. I mean, I've done both. I've led both. I've been in both. I've done one-on-one. I've done groups. And I think the small group, like the 10 women, it's such an amazing transformation in that you finally don't feel alone, right? Because
Yeah,
so many people going through this are like, it's just me. It's got to be me. Look at my neighbors. They've got it all figured out. Look at Facebook. Everybody's got their stuff figured out. And they don't, right? And then when you get
right.
in that group of like-minded people, the growth and the community and the connection, I love that. So
Yeah, and they get so close. It's so awesome because a lot of times what we find is, maybe they're good friends who have been friends for 20 years don't really understand the process that they're going through, but these women in the group understand exactly what they're going through. So there's that kind of outlet too.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I love what you're doing in this world. So if you guys want to get in touch with Sally, Sally is Facebook, Instagram, somewhere else, the best way to find you, or where do they find you?
Yeah, Facebook is great. And I have a free Facebook community that you can join. So we can post that in the group.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right, you guys. Well, if you need Sally's help and you want to find some more self-care and have some more peace and joy in your life, please reach out to her. Sally, thank you so much for being here. It was great to hear all of the new and exciting things you have coming.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, guys. We'll see you on tomorrow's interview.